this thing on? Perfect. Hey everybody, I'm Jill. I'm Reg's wife and I'm helping him get set up for his video today. He's going to be showing you all how to install a soundbar for a TV. Now, when I was unboxing it, I noticed that it came with this handy little template to show you where exactly to put your holes for mounting this soundbar. Now, I'm just going to tuck this off to the side. I'm going to let Reg go ahead and show you how to do this if yours didn't come with one of these handy little templates. And we'll see if his lines and his measurements match up with what it should be. If not, I'll come in and save the day. See ya.
All right, so in terms of supplies to be able to get the job done, I've got some wall anchors here. And again, that's just going to help give us a more secure mounting point for the soundbar. I do have some extra long screws there as well, just to give me some added flexibility. I've got my drill with a 1/4-inch bit corresponding to those wall anchors, a mallet to help pound them in. I then also have some painter's tape and a pencil just to help me make some marks on the wall without really damaging anything. I've got my measuring tape and I also have my level. So that should be everything we need. Should be good to go. Okay, so to get started, the very first thing that I like to do is take a look at the owner's manual that came with my soundbar, okay? Very important that we consult that because for certain soundbars, they may actually have a certain height away from the TV that they want them to be when you mount them to the wall because it can change the sound dynamics, okay? So for mine in particular, it said that I needed to be approximately 3 centimeters, which is like between 1.5 inches and 1.25 inches away from the bottom of the TV. So I'm gonna shoot for about 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna take my measuring tape and my pencil, okay? And first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of just mock this up. Now, I don't have an exact way to get this done, so I'm kind of looking at where roughly about 1.5 inches is. I'm gonna wind up somewhere here on the wall. I'm just gonna make myself a little mark in pencil here, okay? Pencil's nice to use because if you make a mistake, you can erase it. Don't push too hard, and that way you won't leave a dent in the wall, okay? So in a perfect world, guys, that mark that I've just made is where the top of my soundbar is gonna live here, okay? Now what we've got to do is we've got to figure out just a few other dimensions here because we want to have this thing centered in the space, okay? So we've got the total depth that we want it to be away from the actual TV itself, okay? Now, here's the thing. If I was just to mount and start drilling holes right where these are, at that height, my height's going to be all wonky, okay? What you got to do is you got to be able to take a look at the back of the soundbar, okay? And I'm going to see if the camera's going to pick this up. But right here, you're gonna see that's one of the mounting tabs, okay? Now, what we wanna do is you've got the big section of the hole here, and that's where the screw head actually fits in, okay? But then this drops into place to lock it, and the shank of the screw sits in this portion here. So what we wanna know is we wanna know from the center of this hole to the top of the soundbar what that depth is. So if I go and I take my measuring tape here, okay, and I measure the distance from the very top of the soundbar to there, oh man, I'm gonna say that that's about 1 inch. Well, actually, no. You know what? Maybe about 3/4 inch down. Okay. So I know that if that's 3/4 inch down, and that's where I want things to sit, from this mark here, I've got to go down 3/4 inch. Okay. So same thing. I'm gonna measure here. I'm gonna find my 3/4 inch mark. Maybe just a little bit more than that, just to be safe. I'm gonna put a dot here. Okay. So now that second dot for me is gonna represent, that's the height where the holes are actually gonna have to go in the wall here, okay? So what I like to do from here now, I grab a little bit of painter's tape, okay? Now you don't have to do this part here, this is optional. But what I'm gonna do is kind of at the top of that mark, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go just a little bit over my mark. We'll measure one more time for good measure here. No pun intended. I'm just gonna do this, okay? And then I'm also gonna do this here, all right? Because now we gotta start figuring out some math here, okay? So again, from my initial mark here, I know I gotta go down about 3/4 inch. So let's figure out about here. Perfect, okay. So now again, I wanna make sure that I got my soundbar centered on the wall, okay? So First of all, from the wall to my trim here, oh nice, I'm about 37 inches, okay? So I'd like to do this. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna put 37 inches, okay? Now I've gotta divide that in half, and that's gonna get me about 18, 36, 18 and a half. 18 and a half inches is gonna be my center mark here. So I measure from here to here, okay? I lock that in place. I can see 18 and a half inches is right about here. So that is gonna be my center mark on the wall, okay? All right, so you can see this first one here is kind of where I eyeballed it, but that's actually where the center of the wall is, okay? So that's something to keep in mind, all right? So now I know where my center mark is on the wall, but now, in order to get this thing centered, a couple measurements I wanna know. First of all, I wanna know the distance across the entire soundbar. So if I take a look here and measure them out, we're gonna call that, I'm gonna call that 23 and a half inches roughly, okay? So from tip to stern of the soundbar, I'm 23 and a half inches. Okay, so let me go ahead and make a mark here. So 23.5 inches there. Half of 23 and a half is gonna be 10, 11 and 3/4 of an inch. And 3/4 of an inch, that's gonna be the center mark, okay? So now, actually, here's the one that I need to know. 37 inches minus 23 and a half inches. So 23 and a half, 33 and a half, 34 and a half, 35 and a half, 36 and a half, 14 and a half inches. So that means 7 1/4 inches on either side in here will be my center point. So, again, proof of concept here. Let's go 7 1/4 here. And let's see, roughly 7 1/4 on this side here, okay? All right, so now we've got, that's where the soundbar should lie when we're done. Now let's see if my math is right. I'm gonna grab the soundbar, okay? I'm gonna go to that outside mark, and I'm gonna go to this outside mark. And I am off just a little bit. Let's look at my math one more time. 37 inches. Soundbar's 23 and a half. 23 and a half, 33 and a half, 34 and a half, 35 and a half, 36 and a half, 14 and a half inches. 14 and a half inches means I should be 7 1/4 in from either side. Let me just make sure I measured this part right again. Yup. Okay, ha, there's my problem. So now when I go back and check, technically I should have 23 and a half inches between these two marks. I have 22 and a half inches. Okay, so there we go, ½ inch off. So let me go here. All right, so I'm gonna go ½ inch this way. That should put that center mark, 23 and a half. Duh, 6 1/8. That's what we need right there, okay? So yeah, after some mental math failures on my part here, 13 and a half inches, okay? Divided by 2 to get us a center mark means we need to be 6 3/4 inches from each side here. This is why I like using tape on the wall, okay? Let's go ahead and erase that one, this one, this one. Now we're gonna measure 6 3/4 inches out here from the wall on each side. So 6 3/4 is gonna put me about here. 6 3/4 is gonna put me about here. Moment of truth, we're gonna grab the soundbar and mock it up. Soundbar there. Oh, what would you look at that? 6 3/4 of an inch. Perfect. Okay, so after much mental math here, okay, my differential here is gonna be, this distance is gonna be 37 inches. Distance of my soundbar is 23 and a half, okay? That means I'm gonna have 13 and a half inches of excess space. Divide that by 2, so I'm equal distance apart on each side, is gonna put me at 6 3/4, okay? So if I double check, make my first line here at 6 3/4, perfect. I'm gonna come back here, clean up all the failure marks, okay? And I'm gonna set this at 6 3/4 as well, right about here. That's where we should be at the ends of the soundbar. Okay, moment of truth. We're gonna mock it up. Let's actually see if I'm at the end of this mark, roughly. Yeah, look at that. I'm at the end of that mark, roughly. Perfect. And that's got me about centered. Okay, right on. So now we know by looking at these kind of perimeter marks, that's where the outside of the soundbar is gonna sit. Okay, so from there, again, now what I need to do is I gotta measure the distance from here, from this hole, hopefully you guys can see it, whoops, from that hole there to this hole right over here, okay? Now remember, when I measure these, again, just like last time, I gotta make sure I'm up here at the tips, okay? So I gotta measure the distance from the center of those holes, not the ends, gotta be the center, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just take a look here, and let's see, roughly from center to center, I'm gonna call that about 18 inches, okay? 18 inches. So now, when I come up here, I'm gonna get 18 inches, okay? And now half of 18 inches is gonna be 9, okay? So now I gotta get the 9-inch mark right there on my center line, okay? Now I'm just gonna mark either end here. Okay, and then 18 over here. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm just gonna mark here outside, and then screw, and then I'm gonna go over here, same thing, I'm gonna mark screw, I'm gonna mark outside. Excellent, okay, so now I've got my center mark, this is I've got my height line, I've got my center mark, I've got my spots where my screws gotta be, and I've got my outside marks. Awesome, we're getting there, okay? But now comes the fun part. If I just went and drilled these right now, odds are the soundbar might sit level. We gotta look at how we're gonna make this thing actually sit level, okay? So, I brought a very appropriate sized level here for the job, okay? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to line this up here with my center mark that I already have here, okay? And I'm gonna just keep manipulating the bubble here till I get this thing about centered, right where I wanna have it on that center mark. Okay, so I'm good there. I can see my lines that I've made from my inside, my outside, or from the outside of the soundbar of my screws here. I'm just gonna bold these up a little bit more so I can see them a touch easier. All right, let's see here. Okay, height-wise, we're good. Level-wise, that's about good. Okay, so that means I'm gonna drill pretty much where X marks the spot here. Perfect. Okay, gotta put a drill hole there, gotta put a drill hole there, and that should have us completely centered. Okay folks, so off camera, I just did a quick double check of all my measurements here, and I had actually marked this as the outside of the bracket, and I put that little T-line across it. I needed to mark that on the screw line, so I think I got that one nailed now. So again, double check the math, looks like everything's pretty much square. So let's go ahead and grab the drill, and we're gonna start putting those pilot holes in there.
So how's it going?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're ready to drill now, or what?
Ready to start drilling. Got everything measured out here, and I think we're ready to go.
Okay. So you're 100% confident in the measurements and
99% sure.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Do you mind if just like double check super quick?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Did you see this?
What's that?
This is our little friend from the beginning. So this actually came with it in the package.
Oh, nice, okay.
You could do it either way, but it'd be nice to just double check to see if our measurements match up with theirs, right?
All right, well, let's see how close I am then to the actual template.
Okay, so I'm gonna find his center line here. Oh, looks pretty good. All right, and I wanna try to find the actual spots in there. Okay, there's one. Okay, it's super duper close. I would say I'd probably come in just a smidgen on this side if we're gonna trust this template.
Okay. Do you want me to hold that for you? You can mark
sure.
it? Okay, perfect. There we go.
So I'm just gonna put a dot on this side because it matches up to the other one.
Perfect. You wanna hit that one too, just to be safe?
Oh, sure. Okay, great.
Right.
So now I'm just curious, with that template, does that actually measure 18? We didn't double check the template, so let's actually double check this too to see if everything matches. Can you just see if I'm okay on that side? Am I?
Yeah, you're, well,
right
actually, you know what? There you go, right there.
You know what? The template is 1/8 of an inch off.
It says 18 inches here.
Yep. So Reg was 100% correct. This lines up to, yeah, 1/8 of an inch shy of 18 inches on here. So, okay, there's a little lesson too. Maybe the templates are great, but now I'm a little confused what we should follow. So we're gonna measure the back of our sound bar and let's see if we're pure 18 inches or if we're 1/8 of an inch shy. So we're gonna line up in here. And it's right in between. So you know what? I'd say let's split the difference.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, perfect.
So this is a good little trick here. While she's drilling on the hole, I can actually take the Dyson and I'll just fire it up right underneath and all that drywall dust will get sucked up into here instead of going on the floor. It keeps things nice and clean.
So I'm gonna split the difference in between these two then. You're good with that? I'm gonna split the difference from the X and where that dot is.
Whatever you think. And if you see and if you see right there how the drill just kind of went straight in.
Yeah. So I went, like you can feel when you get through the drywall, right? So you're gonna go in straight, you're gonna feel like you have a bit of resistance, and then all of a sudden you'll feel like it wants to plunge in, you know you're through, and then you can pull straight back out again.
Let's get the second one here.
Okay.
Great. Now what she did was she started off with a smaller drill because it's a lot easier to hit the center mark with a smaller drill bit than it is with a bigger one. The bigger one is going to have a tendency to maybe wobble around or run around a little bit when you put it on the drywall the first time. So now what that does is it gives you a nice center mark to actually be able to go straight in with. So I'll give her that. We can just remount those holes and then we can put the anchors in.
All right. Okay.
Perfect. There we go.
Great.
Okay. So now I can do this. And just like that, we've got our 2 marks where we're going to put our wall anchors in now. And now that was a 1/4 inch bit we used in their 1/4 inch anchors. So we should be able to line these up into these spaces like that and just give them a tap into place here. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so we got the anchors installed. It looks like that process went flawlessly. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we can actually get the sound bar to fit on the anchors. We'll see if the math was right. So there's these little rubber spacers that come with the sound bar. I've installed them on the wall anchors already, and that's just designed to give you a little bit of isolation between the sound bar and the wall, but also it's gonna allow you to be able to run your wiring from the sound bar back up to your TV. Gives that little extra gap against the wall. So let's see if this works. I'm gonna try to line up this side first. I should just be able to get that to go on and drop down. Yeah, I think I got that side. And I think I got that side.
Woo!
Perfect. And there it is, folks, just like that. So I mean, now what I would have to do is just run my cabling. I'd pop this off, put the little rubber feet on the bottom of the soundbar, run my cabling and set it up. But it's just that easy. So it just goes to show you, this is something that anybody can tackle on their own with a little bit of time and patience. And if you got the template, makes it a heck of a lot easier. So folks, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving us a thumbs up and a like, and we'll catch you in the next video. That's where you say bye for now.
Bye for now.